Hi. Okay. I'm still alive.
Good, 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 good.
Still
So
playing bridge.
It's the least we expected.
Oh, thank you.
we want to welcome everyone to our Shabbat service. We are celebrating a number of things, but this is the beginning of our cycle of Friday evening services that begins just about a month after high holidays. And to welcome us to our service, I'd like to turn to our president and then to invite our cantor to warm us up a little bit with some music for Shabbat. Madam President?
Okay. Good evening. Welcome, everybody. Let's see. So I think I will have a little business at the end, but I don't want to deal with that right now. So let us begin, and that's all for now.
Wonderful. Cantor, would like to turn to you, please. And what music do you have for us this evening? We spoke about a number of things that are connected to rainbows and the Torah portion, which is the Torah portion Noah, the second Torah portion of the book of Genesis, or Bereshit in Hebrew, and many interesting aspects of that reading. It provides sort of the, can I use the word, the arc between the leaving the garden to the world that is created after the leaving of the garden, and finally the destruction of the world and the beginning of the world again under a new covenant with Noah and Noah's descendants. So, Cantor?
Well, I do in fact have a song for that, but we'll wait until the end.
Okay.
To build the anticipation, and because my beautiful darling mother-in-law just heard it a few minutes ago at the Ner Tamid service, and I wanted to fade in her memory a little in case I do something different. But I thought that we should, at the very least, do a little Hine Matov. So please feel free to sing as loud as you want from behind your mute. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. Hine Matov u'manayim shevet achim gam yachad. We'll start off, as I'll see if I have my PowerPoint ready to go and be fancy. I think, Rabbi, we should start off with lighting some candles. So if you have candles nearby, this is the 15-second warning. So Alan doesn't have his candles ready because he's currently watching the Dodger game on his phone. By the way, this will show you the difference between the two congregations. Oh, very nice. An hour ago, when we were on with Ner Tamid, we referred to it as the Giants game, and now we're referring to it as the Dodger game. So Pretty stiff competition here. But we'll go now to candle lighting. My candles are lit already in the background. But if you have them, I would ask that you please light them, and we will bless them together from sadly behind our mutes. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של שבת.
Thank you, Cantor. Wonderful opportunity for us to begin. And it's traditional that there are 6 psalms that meditatively introduce the Sabbath. And we're going to recite just a couple of them. Cantor's choice. What's the next psalm that we're going to recite?
Well, we will go to Psalm 96 and sing to God a new song. Even though this is a melody that I sing frequently, every time we sing it, it is a new song, and every day and every moment we should have upon our lips a new song to sing to God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash, Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru l'Adonai kol haaretz, Shiru l'Adonai shir chadash. I will sing unto God a new song.
Thank you, Cantor. Beautiful.
Thank you.
The sense of the Psalms is one of expectation, leading to the Sabbath, which is a day culminating in the sense of satisfaction that we have at being allowed to let the world take care of itself after a week of work, or after the concerns of the week, to just be there, to be aware, and take in the wonders of God's world. The next psalm is Romamu, and going to be passages from Psalm 99.
Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'hakodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu le'hakodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu.
We turn now to L'Chadodi, the beautiful Kabbalistic poem inviting us to think of the Sabbath as a bride that we escort into our midst. Come, let us welcome the bride of Shabbat. Let us receive her in joy. May she be, for each of us, a comfort and a presence in our life, not only on Shabbat, but throughout the week.
And we're going to do a melody that I would be willing to bet none of you, other than Denise, have heard. This is a nigun that we know simply as Nigun Pablo. Pablo being one of the congregants at Ner Tamid, who is a marvelous Chilean man, and he taught this to us, and we put it to L'Chadodi, and none of us know where it's from, so you get extra dessert at Rabbi Haim's virtual Shabbos dinner table if you can identify this. L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel. Verse 1, Shabor v'zachor b'dibur echad yishmi'anu el hameyuchad Adonai echad u'shmo echad l'shem ultiferet pelit hila echadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel. Verse 2, likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha ki hi mekor haberacha merosh mekedem nesucha sof ma'aseh b'machsheva techila echadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel. Verse 5, Hitorri ki va'orech mi ori shir daberi kevod Adonai alayich nika L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel. Now, if you are able, I ask that you please rise, and I ask for the assistance of my cameraman so that I can do the same. Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'b'tzola toch emunei am segula boi chalam L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel L'Chadodi likrat kala b'nei Shabbat nekabel. Please sit down.
Well, indeed, I'm now ready to provide day-old birthday cake. This was not just an offer that had no real substance, but we are ready to provide the cake. If you know the origin of that song, name the origin of that song, and you'll receive one of the best chocolate cakes I've ever had, with decorated Hebrew writing. Yes, ma'am. Madam President, you get the first guess. You'll have to unmute.
It's not really a guess because it's said at the top of the page, which for some reason I decided to read just now, that it is by the 16th century poet or rabbi whose last name is Alkabetz.
Yes,
So-
that's who wrote the words. But we're looking for who wrote the melody. Yes.
Well,
So
maybe
you
he
get-
wrote it. Maybe he wrote it too, because after all, it's coming from Chile, so why not?
Yes.
Well, we have pretty good authority. This song exists with those words in at least 300 versions, and this is not the original. But close but no cigar, you get one spoonful. Come on over. Anybody else want to take a guess? It doesn't sound Eastern European, does it? It doesn't sound like
No.
it's from like
It
West
sounds-
Kovna or something like that.
It sounds very much like kind of Latin.
It sounds Latin?
Yeah, well, kind of, I mean, South American.
Right.
It
Yes.
does sound very much like that.
That was probably just my Chilean accent, Polly.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
sounds
Well,
a little
this-
bit. It
The
sounds a little
birthday
Hebrew.
sounds like what?
Maybe Hebrew or Israeli. I feel like it would be a great Israeli dance, just
Uh-huh.
running around that circle and stomping and that sort of thing. Not
I
particularly
like the
well.
spirit of that. Good.
What?
I like the spirit of that. Whether it's right or wrong, it does feel like the thing you should get up and dance to. That's wonderful.
Amen.
That's great. And we'll have Karen, and now we know that Sue is also a dancer. We've never seen her dance until recently. I think what we need is to, some synagogues specialize in different things. We're going to become dancers, all of us, everybody. That includes Sherry and Haim. Good. Okay. We're now going to go to the next part of our service, which is normally the Chetzi Kaddish leading into the Baruch Hu.
And if it is your custom to stand for the Chatzi Kaddish, please do so.
Okay, if you want to, or you're able. That's what I mean.
Exactly. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach irtev yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uvyomechon uchay d'chol Beit Yisrael, bagala, ובזמן קריב והימרו אמן. ישמע רבא מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח. ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה בריחו, ואלמין כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושמחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמה, וימהרו. Amen. And while you're standing already, we will come to the Baruch Hu, which will come to your screen as well in just a moment, I hope. There we go. Baruchu et Adonai, Amevorach, Baruch Adonai, Amevorach, Amevorach, Leolam Vaed. Amevorach, Amevorach, seated. Rabbi, please be unmuted.
We turn now to the blessing that reminds us of the evening. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way in which time and seasons glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars, creator of the tide of time and light. You guide the current of day into night, as heaven spans to infinity. You set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai our God, from whom the evening flows.
El Hai v'chayam tamid yimol chalenu leolam v'ed baruch atah Adonai ha'ma'ariv ha'ravim.
We come to the next blessing, which praises God and thanks God for the guidance that we receive from the teachings of Judaism, the Torah and its mitzvot.
Ahavat olam Beit Yisrael Amcha ahavta Torah u'mitzvot chukim u'mishpatim Tanu limadeta Al ken Adonai Eloheinu B'shochbenu v'kumenu Nasiach b'chukecha V'nismach b'divrei Toratecha Uv'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed Ki hem chayenu ve'orech tzimenu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Ki hem chayenu ve'orech tzimenu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Ki hem chayenu ve'orech tzimenu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Ki hem chayenu ve'orech tzimenu Uvahem negei yomam v'layla Ve'ahavatecha al tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael.
Thank you, Cantor. We turn to the central impetus of our faith, the words of the Shema, which are found in front of us. Let's join together. If your custom is to rise, please do that. If your custom is to sit, please do that.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha V'chol avavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha Ve'hayu advarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha V'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam V'shivtecha b'vetecha u'v'lechtecha v'aderech u'v'shochvecha u'v'kumecha u'kshatam lehot al yadecha והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך.
Please join me in the words in English. And you shall love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And all these words which I command you on this day shall be in thy heart, shall be in thy heart. And thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, shalt speak of them when you sittest in your house, when you walkest by the way, when thou liest down, when thou risest up, and when thou risest up. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, and they shall be for frontlets between thine eyes. And thou shalt write them on the doorposts of thy house, upon the gates, upon thy gates, that ye may remember to do all my commandments, and be holy unto your God, unto your God, unto your God. We continue with the prayers of redemption, of the words of Michamocha. Thank you, Cantor. We turn now to the prayers of the evening, Hashkivenu. Cantor, which of the melodies are you going to use?
Still deciding. It depends on whether or not my wife is at a spot where she can pop in and sing. Let's see. It looks good on camera, but it's a mess over here.
Oh, wait, there she is, ladies and gentlemen, popping in.
Yay!
From
Here,
camera right.
sit next to me. So we are going to do what we did at High Holy Days, but hopefully the sound will work a little bit better. We're going to do Debbie Friedman's beautiful Hashkivenu that starts on at the indented section on your page with Utshmor Tsetenu. Okay. She didn't know she was doing this until just a second ago, so. 3. Ushmor Tsetenu uvoenu lechaim uleshalom me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad olam Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu leshalom V'hamiteinu malkeinu lechaim Uveros aleinu shalom lecha me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad olam me'ata ve'ad מעתה ועד עולם, מעתה ועד עולם. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Wow. So we pray for the sense of calm and peace, that God be present in our lives from now and forever. That God spread over us the special Sukkah, not just the one we've just left in our backyards, but the Sukkah of Shalom over Israel, over Jerusalem, and over all of humanity. We are about to prepare ourselves for the Amidah, the prayers of connection and devotion. So we turn to the Amidah. Oh, we should say V'shamru. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes,
We'll
I'm
do
sorry.
V'shamru. There we go.
Didn't mean to leave off V'shamru.
And I will
It's the
ask-
reason we're here. It's the authorization literature for the holiday known as Shabbat, which is what we're celebrating. V'shamru, please.
1 second, we're having camera issues. There we go. Okay. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, וביום השביעי ששמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. And if you are able, we ask that you please rise for the standing prayer, the Amidah. Adonai Sephatai Tiftach Ufi Agid Tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן. ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לישני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך ממיד ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי הכל. אתה הקדוש ושמך הקדוש וקדושים בכל יום יחללוך סלע, ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
Please invite everyone to be seated and to take a moment for meditation and reflection. And we're going to recite prayers of thanksgiving together in just a moment. Join me, please, in the English. You are with us in our prayer, our love, and our doubt, in our longing to feel your presence and do your will. You are the still clear voice within us. Therefore, O God, when doubt troubles us, when anxiety makes us tremble, when pain clouds the mind, we look inward for the answer to our prayers. There may we find you, and there we find courage, insight, and endurance. And let our worship bring us close to you and to one another, that all Israel and all who seek you may find new strength for your service. Baruch atah Adonai, she'odcha levadcha v'yira na'avod. Blessed are you, sovereign. It is you that we seek to serve. We conclude with the words of Shalom Rav. The form of the Amidah is that we always include a prayer for peace at the conclusion.
Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim le'olam. Ki ata hu melech hador lechol hashalom. כי אתה הוא מלך הדור לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם, תשים לעולם.
Thank you, Cantor. I'm going to take a few minutes now to share with you some thoughts about tonight's topic. I know that many of you have seen the musical, and I will perform several of the songs as part of my contribution to the the book review. I figured that if the cantor can sing and there's a musical about one of the founding fathers, the rabbi should at least be able to tap dance and sing some part of this. Well, the taps fell off my shoes, and so I'm a little limited tonight. So I want to tell you about Alexander Hamilton. I think every one of us has, by this time, either seen on television or been to the theater. And I even have a grandson that has one of those T-shirts that says, "I'm like my country, young and upstart." And he wears it on a regular basis. It was his birthday present for the grand age of, I think, 7 last year. So why all of a sudden this interest in one of the founding fathers of our country, and this surprising book that tells the story of this first the founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, by a person who is not part of the Jewish historical establishment, Andrew Porvacher, who's at the University of Oklahoma. And he wants us to know, and it's in the preface, that he was researching and writing this book before the musical came out. He does not want anybody to think that as an academic he would take up a subject that would garner the possibility that he would sell more than the traditional 50 copies of every academic book. So I want to share with you just a little bit about the book, and I think this wonderful quote by Elie Wiesel is perhaps the best starting point. Sometimes this is a good way for us to enter. In Jewish history, there are no coincidences. The book is divided into a number of chapters, and we are not going to go through all 8 chapters in the epilogue. But I do want us to at least have a chance to talk about some of the highlights. And here I want to talk about why it is that it's only recently that it's come to light that Alexander Hamilton is in all probability someone who came from a Jewish background, and why we did not know about this until very recently. And what was it in his background that leads us to understand him as being a part of the Jewish people? And what was it in his career that, even though he did not officially become a member of a synagogue, and in America was identified with the Anglican Church very late, what was it that brought him to be in one of the most important relationships with the small cadre of Jews that were then living in the colonial states that became the United States? And I think the first thing for us to appreciate about Hamilton is that he was born in a relatively obscure place. I'm going to switch now to a different timeline here, in a little island. Can everybody see this? In the Nevis Island, which is in the British West Indies, to a father with the last name of Levine. Now, most of us would think that somebody with the last name Levine might be Jewish. The second tip-off is that his mother, who was until this book described as a convert to Judaism, grew up and was clearly identified with the Jewish religion, and they sent their son to a Jewish school. So his grade school and his formal schooling was at a Jewish school. And this is a key issue here because at this point in time, people did not generally attend schools, especially at the grade school level and the high school level, that were of another religion. So he was born in the island of Nevis, but as you see, he moves to the island of St. Croix. And this allows us, I think, to have an insight into something that most of us are not aware of. And I only became aware of this as a result of the 3 months I spent in a place called Suriname. And I became aware of the fact that Suriname is on the northern part of South America. I will give you a chance to see a map, but the Caribbean area from mostly Brazil, including Brazil, and all the islands, Jamaica, Barbados, St. Croix, especially the ones that were controlled by the Danes, and later on the Dutch and the British, received people who came to the places fleeing the Inquisition. So most of these Jews were of Spanish and Portuguese descent and have arrived in this area in the 1600s. In 1623, about 125 years before Hamilton was born, the Pope divided the New World into a zone that would belong to the Portuguese and the Spanish, and that caused a future migration, a subsequent migration of Jews, mostly to these northern islands, which were still in contention, out of Brazil, out of the body of South America, to the northern parts, which would be Guyana, Dutch Guyana, which we know as Suriname today, Guyana itself, and the islands. Someday we're going to take under my tutelage and with the permission of our president, a cruise. We'll cruise around the Caribbean together and we'll have a chance to see. Are you signing up, Polly? Yeah, okay, a post COVID cruise. We
Yes,
have all the talent we need. We have the singers, we have the dancers. We don't need to call on any outside help. When Hamilton comes to America, the strange thing is that he registers for the first time as an Anglican. And he admits, and this is kind of an interesting thing, that he's never been to a service, he's never received communion. So when he comes to America, he receives his first communion and has a very successful time as passing as a member of the Anglican Church, marries a woman from a distinguished Anglican background, is involved in a number of very interesting events, including attending King's College, which is, of course, Columbia University today. And it is there that he encounters the largest Jewish community. It's important here to pause for just a moment and inform you that when Stuyvesant refused to let the Jews arrive in the city that we know, or the port we know as Manhattan, it was the Dutch Jewish communities that intervened and insisted that the Jews be allowed to disembark. And they formed the oldest synagogue in America called She'arit Yisrael. Those Jews are described as coming from Holland, but in fact, they all came from Suriname. And when the British took over Manhattan from the Dutch, the consolation prize for the Dutch was Suriname. So they traded one island for Suriname. So there's been a constant close relationship between the oldest synagogue and the Jewish community, which at the time that Hamilton came to New York numbered about 250 people. So we're not talking about large numbers of Jews, but the larger context, and here is one of the things that is interesting about Hamilton, and has just come to the fore, is that he is the only one of the founding fathers that consistently defended Jews. He became a lawyer as a result of his training, and while he did fight in the Revolutionary War and was a part of Washington's staff and was very successful part of his staff, his activities were such that at every point he was there to defend Jews against what was a larger context of suspicion towards Jews and a general sense that Jews were part of a rather shady and problematic group. And this is kind of interesting because one of the central achievements of Hamilton was that he is the founder of our banking system. It was his leadership that set up the banking system and really offered some financial stability, and was, here you see that he was married to a Anglican family, Elizabeth Schuyler, and he, in the middle of the War of Independence, resigns and comes back to the army, and in 1781 retires from military service and serves in the Continental Congress, and is one of the key architects of the Bank of New York, which becomes the model for the Bank of the United States, and one of the key intellectual contributions are the Federalist Papers. So one of the key things that scholars look at is what was his attitude towards one of the central doctrines of the Constitution, and that is the question of the separation of church and state. And here, interestingly enough, one of the people that is associated with that, and in fact, the word, the separation of church and state, is attributed to Jefferson. But it's actually Hamilton that did not take a position on that issue, and actually argued that what should be set up is a situation where there's no state-established religion. And here you have to appreciate that of the 13 states, 8 of them had established churches. That is, when a person paid their taxes, they were supporting the church of the particular state. And one of the other things that was common in all but 3 of the 13 states was that Jews could not participate in any legal proceedings. They could not participate, they could not take an oath in a court proceeding. And it is due to the work and the writing in what we call the Federalist Papers, where Hamilton was one of the lead authors. I know that some of you may have heard of the Federalist Papers from your high school days way back then. But Hamilton was one of the key authors in the writing of these papers, that he supported the idea of a franchise for everyone to participate in the society, no bars to being elected or being accepted as a witness in court, and also the acceptance of Jews as participants in the system of the state offices. This, by the way, did not fall away in all of the states of the United States until somewhere around the 1880s. So there remained in much of the United States states where you could not hold office if you were a Jew, and there were disabilities for that. And in retrospect, one of the things that the author of this book claims is that while we cannot attribute these things directly to his Jewishness, they cohere with what we understand would have been the position of someone who was a member of the Jewish faith. And I want to just conclude with one of the famous trials that he was involved in. I'm going to here do a little pitch for actually reading the book itself, if I can get back to this right here. He was involved in a series of cases that involved some financial matters, and the opposition claimed that the party that he was representing should not be believed because they were basing their claims on the fact that 2 Jewish members, 2 Jews were part of the people supporting the claims of the person who had made the claims of the litigants. The details are actually interesting and important. This was a case that went on for years, some 5 years, and eventually it was decided in what was a very significant speech that Hamilton made, and is in some ways now understood to be one of the key moments in which Hamilton, while not accepting the idea that he would be announcing himself as a member of the Jewish faith, expressed himself with the words that the idea that his client's case would be thrown out because 2 of the key witnesses were Jews was in complete contradiction to the impetus of the revolution that had just been fought, of the Constitution that had just been established, of the Bill of Rights that had been put together. And he argues in what is described as a very um, dramatic fashion that the Jewish people are blessed with having been given the gift of prophecy that was theirs before every other people in the world, and that they have retained that sense of integrity that marks who they are. And it is without a doubt one of the great speeches. And as I'm talking to you, I was actually planning to quote the words of the speech, and I'm unfortunately not finding it. But it is a speech that is, I think, of a powerful sense that there is a, a, a moment in his life where, and here is the key thing, that Hamilton was conscious of his connection to this sense of the historical role the Jews have played. One of the things that Hamilton's grandson said, which was simply ignored by other historians, was that, of course, the family had Jewish roots, and that they were, of course, descended from Jewish communities from the Caribbean. And it is the grandson who was simply ignored by most of the authorities. In any case, I think that this is a wonderful read. It's an opportunity for people to see some of the complexity that the founding fathers faced, and especially Hamilton in a larger context where there was rampant suspicion of Jews and downright anti-Semitism across the board, from people like Madison, from Washington, from Jefferson, etc. And the author of this book is careful to share with us the idea that, especially in this moment in American history, the idea that we have a Jewish founder is significant for helping us to understand why this country is unique and some of the tasks that it faces. So I recommend the book, and hope that people will pick up this reading. I'm open to questions.
Who is
Andrea.
the author? The author?
The author is Alexander Porvacher.
Oh, right.
P-O-R W-A-N-C-H-E-R. And in a fit of serendipity, he arranged to publish a short précis of his book in the Wall Street Journal today, because he knew I was giving this sermon. You can go. It was our president that pointed it out to me, I'm happy to send you the short article. And he, in the way that academics do that, is making fun of his academic colleagues who couldn't figure out that if you have a Jewish mother and you have a Jewish father, and the Jewish father's name is Levine, and he went to a Jewish school, and you have a grandson that says he's Jewish,
you're probably a Jew.
maybe a Jew. Anyway,
where does the name Hamilton come from?
The high school here on La Cienega Boulevard.
Yeah, besides that, I mean, did he just try to pick a neutral name like so many immigrants do, or?
I don't know that. In fact, I was looking for that, Denise. I was looking for the answer to that question. because I knew you would ask it. It was my question as well. I don't know the answer.
Okay.
um,
I'm sure it should.
I
Research.
suspect that the name Hamilton, given that his born name is Levine,
It's fascinating.
how about Alexander Levine? Doesn't have quite the same ring. I wonder how it would work in the song that we're singing.
Does Corwancher say anything about Hamilton, about the name?
No, he doesn't. I was looking for it. I didn't see anything about the name. The names in the Caribbean are very interesting. And there is, by the way, because I've been reading about Jews from the Caribbean, there's all this stuff, about Jews being the pirates in the Caribbean. There's another, that's actually kind of a bogus book, but I like it because I like the idea of Jews walking around with, hooks and drinking whiskey. But they were people who were working in ports. This idea of port Jews is a niche that Jews found themselves in. They were involved in trade. This was a time of slavery, the brutality of slavery. Jews were involved, like everyone else, in that. The profile of being either in sugar or in cotton, which were the main cash crops, fits what the family was doing. Most of the names, though, like in Suriname, they're typical names that we know from living in Los Angeles: Fernandez, Gomez, Garcia. The Jewish names we know from our parents and our grandparents, right? Most of us have a Hernandez in our family. When you look at the tombstones in Suriname, they're, Fernandez. That's the most common name in Suriname.
That's interesting. Is Andy there? Because I'd like to ask him. Andy, are you there?
Andy, are you there?
Yes.
Andy, you read the Ron Chernow biography, right?
Yes, I
The
did.
one. Is there anything about Hamilton's Jewishness in that?
Not that I remember, no. And I think that would have stood out. I think Chernow was coming from a more traditional place of what the historians all thought. And I remember that Chernow said that Alexander Hamilton's actual father was a man named James Hamilton, who was a Scottish immigrant into the Caribbean with whom mom had a torrid affair. That is the story. Now, what is the reality of it? It's really hard to know, because a good chunk of the history comes from people of a more Jeffersonian spin who didn't really like him all that much, as we know.
Right. So, Andy, I think you're referring here to this break between what we call the Jeffersonian Democrats and the then Federalists groups, which were the sort of the two rivalous factions.
Absolutely. And their print media made the MSNBC, Fox News look like they were friendly, best friends who just had slight differences in reporting style. I mean, the reporting back then was vicious and brutal.
Okay.
Aaron,
you're muted.
Aaron?
It was interesting to note in the biography that you had on screen that he became a clerk when he was like 9 years old.
Right.
And I don't know when it was he went to any school, let alone to have become so scholarly. in so many ways. That's phenomenal. He must have been really, really stoked.
Phenomenally bright, yeah. For Jewish cook.
Undoubtedly, he was an exceptionally bright person.
Jewish cook.
And
Yeah,
he's the
exactly.
ghostwriter. He's the
Exactly.
ghostwriter for most of the Federalist Papers. I mean, these were written by us, basically as a committee of two. There was a third writer for a short time, but basically two people wrote the Federalist Papers. He was the ghostwriter for most of Washington's letters, which are quite famous. It was an exceptionally, but having spent 3 months in Suriname, if you didn't have a television, you might actually turn to reading books and writing. Right. So thank you. Any other questions? I think we need to get some kind of a special T-shirt together for this.
What does your grandson say?
I don't know. Lynn is off. There is I'm young and scrappy, just like my country.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, it's one of the lyrics.
It's one of the big lyrics. Everybody always wants.
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
Claudia, you're going to have to unmic or unmute.
I think we should write an alternative Hamilton play.
Okay, go
For
ahead.
Purim. Yeah, I'm going to pair you up with Cantor Shana and Andy, and we'll write a play.
Shana and Andy got it right.
Oh, for Purim.
Purim,
At
yeah.
least, if nothing bigger than that.
Yeah, and we'll mount it on Broadway. What do we got to do? Okay.
Maybe it'll go over like Fiddler.
Say again?
Maybe it'll go over like Fiddler.
Right.
Which was Jewish and everybody accepted it.
Right.
So
Said about, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
They said about Fiddler before it opened, after the Hadassah ladies, who's gonna see this play?
Right.
Exactly. And look what happened. So
I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that we should probably begin to move on to the next subject. Our cantor, I think, is fading, and needs dinner.
Well, I have a 13-year-old son and a wife who have not had any food, nor have I.
Okay, so we should do Aleinu, and we should do.
Why don't we dive into Misha Berach if we could,
Right,
and then we will
Misha Berach.
do that.
Thank you for your attention, everyone.
Absolutely.
Thank you,
fantastic.
thank you, Haim. Interesting.
thank you. It was
Oh,
very
interesting.
good. Very interesting.
So we bring to mind, maybe, Rabbi, should we go around since we're a small group and
Yeah, we're a small group, so we'll quickly invite people to share the names, and we'll start with Denise. Are there people you're praying for?
Yeah. Yes, Jerry Hyman, John Strain, and Michael Hyman.
Thank you. Sherry Paul? Andrea?
My cousin, David, and my sister-in-law, Inga.
Polly?
Pat Sachs, Diane Walko, and Mikiko Lowenthal.
Thank you. Sue and Joel?
My cousin Beverly Thurber.
Karen?
Suzanne Joyce, Rachel Furman, Annabelle, and Jane and Izzy.
Alan? Alan? He's unmuted. Okay. Claudia?
I don't have any names.
Let me add our cousin Richard, Edith Balanoff, Lynn's mom, my mother-in-law. And this week we mark 700,000 who've died from COVID, but we'll deal with that at Kaddish. Cantor?
I will add in my mom, Ellen, my little sister, Anna, also Michael Hyman and Jerry Hyman and Rabbi Steve Robbins. מקור הברכה, אמותינו, may the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Misheberach imotenu mekor habracha avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Thank you. We rise for the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשינו כגויי הרצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
We invite people to share with us the names of people whose yortzites are being observed at this time. If you'd share those names as I call on you. Alan or Claudia, Denise, Sherry.
Rob Black.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrea, Polly, Sue and Joel.
My mother, Ann Nevins.
Karen.
My mother, Martha Goodman.
Thank you. Thank you. We remember with love and devotion those who are about to recite the Kaddish for, and we join their names with those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. We rise for the Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah v'yalma divrach yirotei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon v'chayed kol Beit Yisrael Bagala v'zman kariv v'yamru Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevorach Le'olam Ulmei Olmaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitalel Shemei D'Kudusha B'richu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, Damiram v'yimru, Amen. Yehi Shlomarav min Shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru, Amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for all who mourn. Let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Before Cantor concludes our service, we have just time for some brief announcements from our president.
We were up until now, we're a little bit uncertain, and I'm going to invite you to help us with this after we close the service, which is we have the possibility of changing around our December schedule in order to celebrate together Hanukkah. So, Sue, would you talk about that? Because I'm kind of forgetting which day was which. And what we would like is your feedback on it, since it's just us.
Now or at the end? You're talking about.
Well, feedback afterwards, but tell us what you were thinking.
Okay, so Andy and Haim would like to have a special Hanukkah service for us during Hanukkah, and it would not normally fall that way since we meet on the second Friday night. So we're talking about meeting on the first Friday night of December, and celebrating Hanukkah then, but that would mean that we'd probably have to move our Torah study to the second Saturday of December. And I'm not sure about the second Torah study of the month, because that would come out on Christmas Day, I believe.
No, shouldn't. But anyway, so if anybody has any strong feelings about changing things around, you can let us know after we finish, or write an email to us, and we'll see. Okay. So, because I had just sent out an email saying, okay, this is the schedule for the next few months, and so if that concerns anyone, let us know. Okay, moving right along.
So if we have made all the announcements, I think everyone has seen the announcement about the program that is the Taubman program that our friend Richard Hecht is inviting us to this Sunday, and also by coincidence, the Freighted Legacies program with Professor Jan Grabowski reporting on the trial in the Polish courts. So you're invited. That's at 10 a.m. You can choose one, and if you choose the other, you'll be able to see the tape. So you'll be able to Ken Tanzen of alle Chasanas, as they say. You'll be able to dance at all the weddings. Cantor, would you sing us out, please?
I will indeed. Thank you, Rabbi. Number one, thank you, Rabbi, for that absolutely fascinating bit about Alexander Hamilton maybe being Jewish. Another rabbi I know has this theory that Hawaiians are Jewish because of the fact that kahuna and kohen sound so similar. And mean the same thing. And that is relevant because I wanted to close this evening with a good Jewish song written by two good Jews, Harold Arlen and Yip Harburg. But not the movie version of the song. We go to Hawaii with a wonderful, fantastic, and passed much too soon performer whose first name was Israel and whose last name I can't pronounce. And so this is his version of Over the Rainbow mashed up with What a Wonderful World.
Wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Why, oh why can't well, I see trees of green and red roses too. I'll watch them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Well, I see skies of blue and I see clouds of white, brightness of day. Oh, I like the dark, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. And the colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people passing by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. And I hear babies cry, and I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than we'll ever know. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Ooh, someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, way up high. And the dreams that you dare to, why, oh, why can't I? shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
One more song to sing. One more song in honor of our rabbi.
Yay.
Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rabbi. Happy birthday to you. To 120.
Here's
Happy
120.
birthday, Haim.
Keep blowing.
Blow. Keep blowing.
Yay.
Andy, that song
I
was
got the wish in. That song is so beautiful, Andy.